The Antikythera Mechanism. Around Easter of 1900, two catchers carrying sponge divers from Simi on the way back from the coast of North Africa, where they usually dived for sponges, were forced by rough seas to seek landfall on the Antikythera east coast near the Potamos port. When the storm eased, the sponge divers who dived to a depth of 50 meters to look for sponges on the seabed found themselves before a surprising discovery. A particularly important ancient shipwreck, which was full of amphora and statues, covering an area of approximately 50 meters in length. After removing the arm from a bronze statue as proof of finding the abundant ancient shipwreck, Elias Statiadis, one of the divers, surfaced and told his captain. The Antiquities salvage operation, which began round the middle of November 1900 under extremely difficult conditions, lasted many months. All in all, 108 objects made of bronze and marble were salvaged from the wreck, mostly statues and statuettes. Some of the marble statues are parts of groups or compositions reconstructing or copying works from the classical era, the 4th century BC, and the Hellenistic years. Also clay, glass, and silver objects, pieces from the lining of furniture, wooden parts from the ship, and other small objects. Among the findings from the wreck were the fragments of the Antikythera Mechanism, about which Zvoronos says in the wreck finding detailed list, which he published in 1902. There is a curious finding of a mechanism in bronze, comprised of numerous bronze wheels, much like a contemporary clock. The entire mechanism was contained inside a square compass and was probably related to astronomy. Initial study of the fragments maintained that it was a kind of astrolabe, gimbal, used in navigation. In 1971, history professor Derek de Sola Price from Yale University, in collaboration with nuclear physicist Karakalos, examined the mechanism fragments with X and gamma rays to clarify its operation, while in 1980 he made a gift of the mechanism reconstruction, which was the result of his many years of research. The mechanism is made of a copper and tin alloy, bronze, and is comprised of a complex system of 32 cog wheels, which bear inscriptions related to the zodiac and the months. The entire system was placed in a wooden case with metal doors on the front and back, bearing inscriptions. According to Price, it was a mechanism for calendar, solar and lunar calculations, a device for setting time based on the movements of the sun, the moon, the relative movements between them, namely the eclipses, and the movements of other known planets of the time. The mechanism, which according to Price dates from around 80 BC, was probably made in the school of Poseidon in Rhodes by an ingenious engineer, while Cicero, who visited Rhodes in 79-78 BC, mentions the fabrication of a similar device by Stoic philosopher Posidonius Apameus. The mechanism design seems to follow the tradition of Archimedes' planetarium and be related to solar clocks. The mechanism operation is based on the use of cogwheels. Despite the fact that the use of cogwheel mechanisms was known in antiquity, and Archimedes or Ctesibius are mentioned as the inventors, according to Price, the differential cogwheel system for calculating the difference between two rotations appears for the first time with the Antikythera mechanism. New radiography examinations were carried out at the museum in 1900 and 1991 for the needs of current research, using stereo X-rays at an angle in order to record the cogwheel configuration stereoscopically, and also using X-ray linear CT scan. English engineer and mechanism investigator M. Wright presented a different view for the function of the mechanism in a series of articles and made a new reconstruction of the mechanism. A new round of investigation and study into the mechanism began in September 2005 by a group of scientists from the University of Thessaloniki, Athens and Cardiff in collaboration with the museum. During this investigation, besides the four known fragments, Fragment E came to light. It bears a multi-verse inscription of which the words Timbano and Te Eliki are visible, and the unknown Fragment F, which has marine microorganisms on its back and has preserved a piece of wood on its left side, very probably from the frame that helped fit the mechanism inside the wooden case. A large number of other, smaller fragments have been found. Their dimensions range from 0.5 to 8 centimeters, and there are indications that they belong to the mechanism. Many of these fragments bear inscriptions or single letters, but in many cases the inscriptions are now indiscernible, or it was not possible to read them until today. All fragments were then photographed with an innovative digital imaging device, PTM, by Hewlett-Packard, which was bought from the US for this purpose and contributed to the re-emergence of almost obliterated texts related to astronomy and elements on the mechanism's surface. The investigation continued with X-raying of all fragments on the state-of-the-art X-Tech Blade Runner CT scanner, which revealed for the first time unknown facets of the mechanism's interior structure with its complex cogwheels and axis, as well as the inscriptions, the thickness of which do not exceed 1/10 of a millimeter. According to the first results of the most recent investigation, which is ongoing, the mechanism, which was placed inside a wooden case, consists of 30 cogwheels and includes many astronomy-related inscriptions. Besides its known use as a solar and lunar calendar, it also performed other planetary forecasts. It was possibly manufactured in the second half of the 2nd or the beginning of the 1st century BC, and is one of the most significant achievements of ancient technology.